It was off to the set of Jimmy Kimmel Live, Mr. Biden's first appearance there since 2019 when he was running for president. Kimmel's first subject last night was gun ownership laws and why they've not changed significantly despite the incidents of mass shootings. In his reply, the president depicted the legislative inaction as a function of internal dynamics within the Republican Party. In so doing, he opened a window onto his long relationship with the top Republican in the U.S. Senate. This prompted the only instance of pushback against the president from his host.
I guess, just to get into it, why haven't we done anything about this?
Well, I think a lot of it's intimidation by the NRA. And look, this is not your father's Republican Party. This is a MAGA party. It's a very different Republican Party. And so you find people who are worried, I believe, that if they vote for rational gun policy, they're going to be primaried, and they're going to lose in a hard-right Republican primary.
Is that your take when you speak to these guys and women behind the scenes, that they are, is there any honesty? Do they acknowledge that they would like to do something?
Well, I think many of them do. You know, I get in trouble for saying this, but I get on, we have very different views on a lot of things, but I've always had a straight relationship with the Republican leader, Mitch McConnell. You know, he's a guy that when he says something, he means it. I disagree with a lot of what he says, but he means it. There are a number of...
Like when he said we can't confirm a Supreme Court justice with a year left,
That's
and
right.
then said the opposite?
Well, no, what he did, I mean, look, he's a leader of a party that's moved very hard right. And so in order to get anything done, he has a different problem than he did early on.
Left unaddressed in that dialogue, of course, is whether similar dynamics within the Democratic Party are also inhibiting legislative action on a range of issues. In addition to 2 speeches at the Summit of the Americas today in Los Angeles, the president will also conduct one-on-one sit-downs with the leaders from Canada and Brazil. Emma.
All right, notably absent, the president of Mexico, not in attendance. James Rosen at the White House with the latest. James, thank you. Let's bring in now our panelist for the hour. We're going to keep our conversations going about news of the day with former Trump campaign aide Rick Gates, also with us, former Georgia Congressman Jack Kingston, and former Lieutenant Governor of New York Newsmax contributor Betsy McCoy. Panelists, thanks so much for coming on today. Jack Kingston, I'll start with you. Did you tune in and watch the president's appearance on Jimmy Kimmel?
No, I don't really follow Jimmy Kimmel. He is a partisan operative and an activist Democrat. But it did remind me, the clips that I've seen on Newsmax reminded me of when I was in Congress and, say, a 5th grader used to have to interview me for some class project. I would not say an 8th grader. 8th graders were tougher than 5th graders. But it was basically Jimmy Kimmel saying, let me ask you some questions that you can agree on and we can make you look good and try to boost your numbers. So I thought it was absolutely pathetic. Great for Joe Biden, but it just shows Jimmy Kimmel is all about politics and not comedy.
Yeah, Betsy, I'll get your thoughts on that, too. But I want you to respond with this in mind. Everyday Americans can't afford the gas they're pumping into their own cars, or they're filling up less. They can't afford stuff at the grocery store. Mass shootings that are happening, the death of 19 school children that we've seen earlier. I mean, the list continues to go on, and as you see the gas average there. And of course, then you have the threat on the life of Supreme Court Justice. Was now the time, and I don't want to be a downer, but I do want to take this in a serious manner, in a serious tone. Is now the time to appear on late night shows?
That's like a joke. Americans are facing very serious problems. It's no time to go on a late night talk show and treat it all as a joke. But let me point out additionally, when Biden says this is not your old Republican Party, I am so glad it isn't. The new Republican Party represents working people, people who value the work ethic, who value self-sufficiency, who don't want to go on the dole, who believe that America is the best nation on earth. And too bad if Joe Biden is yearning for the old go along to get along Republican Party. We're better than that.
He also, during the interview, in that clip that we played for our viewers, Rick, he talked about blame for Republicans when, we keep in mind Congress, the Senate, the White House, Democrats are in charge. Is he accepting any responsibility for maybe what critics would call, Democratic critics would call inaction within the White House?
No, he's not accepting blame, and it's not just last night, but it has been his modus operandi for the last several months now. So every instance of where he has messed up a certain policy, whether foreign or domestic, he is pointing the blame finger at somebody else. And that is going to be his strategy moving into the midterms because they don't really have anything else to run on. He hasn't pivoted from any of his top priorities, which are not seeing any success. So I think he's going to continue to do this. And last night was a great indication. Even Jimmy Kimmel called him out on it. We hold the White House. We have both houses of Congress, and yet we're not able to get anything done. And his first pivot point was to talk about climate change. So he clearly is not in touch with the American people, and he's going to find that out in November.
Yeah, back to Congressman Kingston. I'll switch over now to the January 6th committee primetime hearing that's going to be held. They're going to show their investigation to the American people. Let me look at my notes. They call it, because I want to be correct, they're going to have a mountain of evidence, again, to show tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern time. All the mainstream media networks are covering it. Several cable news outlets are covering it as well. I'll have you, Jack, respond to that and what you expect from the hearing tonight. But I also want to keep intact, too, that, when an investigation is conducted, and I know this from reporting for decades, more than that, you don't get information during an investigation. There's no comment while this investigation is ongoing. To me, it's interesting that we're going to throw out all the evidence that we know right now without charges on who they're going after, which is President Trump. That has been widely said. Who is to blame for what happened on January 6th, according to this committee? Congressman, your thoughts?
I think it's just the last hurrah for the Democrats. Their last gasp was trying to bring back the good old days when Biden was high on the polls and Trump was low and Republicans were low. It's almost like a bunch of hippies trying to bring back the good times and rock and roll of Woodstock. The nation's moved on. You know, if gas prices were still at $1.78 a gallon, which they were when Joe Biden was inaugurated, maybe people would be interested tonight. If food prices were still down, if we didn't have 2 million illegal aliens flooding our borders, people may look at this. But the fact is, the January 6 issues have been, I know a lot of Dems are going to love this. It's going to be kind of comfort food for their political soul. But the truth of the matter is the American people have bigger worries than this at this time. And to put it on prime time, everybody knows this is pageantry, this is shows. This actually brings out not just the worst in the Democrats, but far worse in the media to go along with such a charade. This is third world kangaroo court stuff.
Betsy, when you think about the average American and what is their top concern right now, where does January 6th fall on that?
Well, January 6th is way down at the bottom of the list of their concerns, but even more seriously, this is a very serious abuse of House investigative authority. And as Jack pointed out, it also makes the media look very bad that they are colluding with one party in government to make this a primetime lights, camera, propaganda phenomenon. It's a dog and baloney show, and what a shame that the American people even have to see this. It must conjure up in their minds what has happened to the legitimacy and the fairness and even-handedness of our government, that they're spending our money and their time on this.
I just want to point out that our network had just sent out a statement to correct something previously put out from our previous show. Newsmax is covering the January 6 hearings tonight live because it is a major news event. It goes on to say it is highly partisan, so we will have people like Alan Dershowitz and President Trump's former attorney General Matt Whitaker on Newsmax to really critique any bias the committee puts out there. Again, 8 p.m. So again, confirmation there. Newsmax will hold the January 6th committee live here on the network. Panelists, thank you so much for joining us. We do appreciate that.